All right. So I would like to quickly turn it over to Marianne to read our land acknowledgements.
Yes, so truth and acknowledgement are critical to building mutual respect and connection across all barriers of heritage and difference. We begin this effort to acknowledge what has been buried by honoring the truth. Flint, Michigan occupies ancestral Mississauga Nation land. The University of California, San Diego is built on the unceded territory of the Kumeyaay Nation. The University of Virginia occupies Manahoac and Monacan land, and the University of Michigan rests on Anishinaabe Nation land. Knowing where we live and work does not change the past, but a thorough understanding of the ongoing consequences of this past can empower us in our research, teaching, and outreach to create a future that supports human flourishing and justice for all individuals. We commit to acknowledge the painful history of genocide and forced removal of these peoples from these and all territories. Please take a moment to consider the many legacies of violence, displacement, migration, and settlement that connect us together today. And I'd also like to take a moment to acknowledge the ECIP community participation guidelines that can be found at this link at the bottom. ECIP's community participation guidelines are meant to provide guidance for expected behaviors and behaviors that will not be tolerated, as well as what to do when unacceptable behaviors occur. So take it away, Steve.
Okay, so we start with the value proposition of ECIP, which is to help its members of the earth science community find each other across organizations by fostering rich collaborative experiences like meetings and successful and seed funding to further data interoperability. And so I think one of the things that we've been trying to answer or expand on are who are the members or who are the stakeholders. And in this case, there is a community of need. I'd like to acknowledge our partners in all of this. The engine room represented by Barbara, who's on the call today from Sao Paulo, Brazil, and Data for Black Lives. And we recently lost our contact at Data for Black Lives, who's gone on to bigger and better things. And there's Lesedi Boué, who's coming at us from Botswana on the African continent. They've been very good about sort of structuring our workflow, our goals, making us realistic and keeping us from making stupid mistakes. So I take it that all of you are somewhat familiar with the Flint water crisis, and I just wanted to quickly bring everyone up to speed. According to the Michigan state government, of course, the Flint water remains stable and is of the highest quality and the lowest lead, and yet last week New York Magazine said does Flint have clean water? And the answer is no. We're still in this, some 7 years in, and there are lots of convictions going around, which is why I had a question about, do we have any legal eagles? Because we are skating into uncharted territory with active convictions, and we're trying to provide data. And one of the convictions is about hiding data. So from a passionate quest to find data and running into a lot of 404s, I finally was able in the last year, big success, in addition to some things that Andrew will talk about with making certain connections and identifying resources, was able to actually find data. And you can see that there's data on the right-hand side that's hosted in a deep, dark corner of the Michigan website, Michigan State website, which no EPA connection. Last EPA data was taken in 2016, 5 years ago, and it was kind of tapering off even then. So, there is some room here for some gap analysis. And I should mention here that for one of the breakout groups, if we're talking about data wrangling, they're Excel files and PDFs. It's all scrapable, no metadata, no mention of schema.org. Discoverability, interoperability are really, really going to be a challenge. Okay, and Andrew's going to talk about Open Data Flint.
Okay, I can unmute. So there are some data related resources already for Flint, Michigan, and there have been other people trying to do kind of what we're doing, which is coalesce important data to Flint's water quality and just to Flint in general in one place. And so one of the main groups that have been doing that is Open Data Flint. So this is a data repository that's hosted as part of ICPSR, which is the Inter-University Consortium for Social and Political Research. I'm pretty sure I got that acronym right. Which is a massive social science data repository hosted here at the University of Michigan. I would encourage you, if you haven't had time, to check out Open Data Flint, because some of what we're going to do today is focused around like how could we get data into Open Data Flint and what kind of curation would need to occur in order to do that, or how can we partner with Open Data Flint somehow to also then work with people in Flint. I'm gonna go to the next slide. Thanks. Yeah, so for folks that are only just now joining us, this is the second of 3 planned kind of workshops or ECIP sessions, ECIP meeting sessions that we're doing. In summer 2020, we did a do-a-thon to basically get everybody to help us Google things, and therefore basically finish a landscape analysis, better scoping the extent of issues in Flint. So to what extent do people still not have water, to clean water, to what extent are they experiencing other environmental harms, and to generally answer these 5 questions. Who is being affected and how, what research has been done, what data is already collected, what research and data are needed, what are the root causes of this crisis, and who else is doing the work. So there's a link to this document in the Kiko, not in the Kiko chat, but in the Google Doc that's in this session's little webpage called Landscape Analysis. And that's what Marion sent out, asking that people would try to read beforehand for today's session. If you didn't have a chance to read it, I do hope that you can at least open it up and have it to refer to as you're working in the breakouts, because I think it's really important to build on this existing work that's already been done. Do you want to do the next slide? I can do this one. Okay. So that's what we're going to do today. So we're doing that. We did that do-a-thon where we did landscape analysis. Today we're doing an idea-thon, and the idea is that we're going to build on this idea to actually do a more focused hackathon in summer that might be done as like a pre-meeting workshop or something like that, where we have more than just an hour and a half to do things. And based on our landscape analysis, we identified 4 areas that we think that are important to tackle and that we as ECIPers should be able to contribute to. So the first one is thinking about the curation of public data and what to do with that. So like Steve said, he found a bunch of this kind of hard to find data that is technically public, but it's buried in government websites. I think so. If you're interested in curating this data, you would go or brainstorming around how to curate this data and where to put it. I would like to see it in Open Data Flint, but like I think there's lots of other options. And you should go to this breakout group. Breakout group 2 is going to focus on map integration and thinking about other ways to connect Flint Open Data Portal with the community. So there's a lot of potential for building maps, tracking out like quality of pipes, quality of water, but there's not a lot of infrastructure for that. So if you're interested in thinking about maps, go to that group. Group 3 is on how to utilize ECIP and its resources to assist with the crisis in other ways. If you're interested about thinking about like what other skills and strengths do ECIPers have, what other data do we have, I recommend group 3. And group 4 is about gaining and maintaining community buy-in. So this is something we've been struggling with because it's been hard to make contacts, but we do have contacts with the Flint Open Data Portal. So that's one group, but we're also interested in thinking about like what sorts of ways could we reach out more to the community and start making more contacts. So this is more participatory as opposed to just us doing a thing and then dropping it on them. And that's probably not very helpful.
Can I, this is Jonathan Blythe, can I say something about the last one?
Sure.
So I don't know if, Andrea, were you in the discovery cluster session?
I'm teaching and my schedule's packed. I haven't been able to go to anything.
Well, someone from, maybe it was your community fellow was there, and it was interesting because we were doing a board interactive assignment and like strengths and needs, and the fellow mentioned that you have a need, like you expressed for number 4, to build ties with the community. And I was representing community resilience team, and I put as our strength that we could help ECIP find ties to the community. I think where the reason why we can't connect on this particular use case is because, you know, none of us live in Flint or have a particular tie to that community, but we could make ties to other communities. So where we already work or have connections. So just that's something to consider.
I think that, yeah, we definitely want to take this to other communities as well. If you're interested in brainstorming on how we could build methods to do that more generally, I think group 4 would be the right group for you. I don't know, does that make sense?
Yeah, and I was also wondering if this is just one breakout or if we're gonna try to tackle half of these first and the other half second.
I'm gonna, so Steve, I think, was gonna talk through the breakout plan. Although, given that we're 13 people, we might wanna, you know, alter that on the fly.
Exactly. Yeah. So, you know, what we can do, I mean, the idea here, of course, is to get ideas. And if we can break into 2 breakout rooms to handle the first 2, then we can kind of jiggle our schedule around so that we take 15 minutes and go through those 2, and then 15 minutes regroup, and then do 15 minutes on the second 2. I think that would be a good use of our time, and then we can and go through as a group perhaps and chart a way forward once we have the conclusions or give a few results. So the idea of what we're getting at with the first 2 breakout rooms is we want to have somebody moderate or facilitate the discussion that'll be elected within the group, and then somebody taking notes. I don't know if one of the ECIP fellows can do that within the group, so the other people are can participate a little bit more fully, or if the ECIP fellows want to participate more. There are Jamboards that are linked in the main document that's in KikoChat. And you are encouraged to use those sticky notes, drawing, everything, in addition to the slide deck that is provided for you to stick your ideas into. So without further ado, I made 4 breakout rooms and I named them, but we're just going to use 2, and you can self-assign which group you go to. So you should be able to put yourself in the FOIA or the map integration. Try not to go into the last 2. I'm going to go ahead and close those, and we'll see you back here in about, well, let's give you guys 20 minutes. This is a little bit more meaty, and let's go ahead and do that. I'll stick around here for a bit.
And if anybody's having trouble joining things,
just tell me and I'll stuff you in a room. There we go.
So the only 2 breakout rooms that we are
using right now are FOIA and map integration.
Okay, thanks.
Yep.
I'm waiting to see distribution of people before going someplace.
It's pretty balanced.
Yeah.
Which is great. And I'm glad you said something about changing up on the fly.
Yeah.
That's good.
Sarah, if you're still here, I want to nominate you to come to the FOIA one.
Hi, I'm here. I was trying to join a breakout room, but it looks like I'm in.
I can join you if you wish.
The other ECIP follow is already in the forum, so I could take the other one, but
The map
Because
integration.
you're at ICPSR, I thought that would be a good one for you to.
All right, Sarah, you're
Hello?
going to FOIA.
great.
I guess I'm back. When I clicked on my room, it kicked me out of Zoom altogether.
Oh, good.
Great.
That happened to me once this week.
Do you want map integration, Emilio?
Yes.
Your wish is my command.
Okay.
This is Ethan too. I have not received any invitations.
Okay, that's
I'd
fine.
like to be number 2, if possible.
Number 2, Ethan. Yeah, off you go. Map integration, I'm assuming.
Great. Yes.
Steve, this is Barbara. Can I
Hi, Barbara.
join number 1, please?
Number 1, off you go.
Yes. Thank you.
So it's time to take the temperature of the room a little bit. So everybody seemed to be just hitting their stride. Dynamically, do we, to make progress in this sort of idea phase, do people feel like they need to go back into their room and sort of bring it in for a landing, or are you ready to move on?
This is Ethan. I think we just press on and see what we can do later. Just keep pressing on.
Okay. Sounds like we have okay, cool. And so Ethan, since you are offered that up, I'm going to put it to the test and say, whoever you guys are reporting out for the map integration, enlighten us.
Yeah. Emilio's going to
About-
enlighten us.
Okay,
About
cool.
the discussion.
Wait, nice lob over the net.
No,
done.
it's not a surprise. That's what he had decided.
Right. Emilio, you have the.
Yeah, let's see. So the first thing is that given that the topic was partly framed as evaluating the suitability of the open data Flint system, one conclusion is that we have a larger challenge in this group to decide on, and that is what data challenge are we actually going to go after? Because that has implications on what both the technical and the sociological aspects of what's an optimal system to work with. For example, I think one clear demarcation between 2 possible scenarios is if we go with water data as our focus, lead in the water and the infrastructure that carries the water, the pipes. The open data Flint is probably not the best partner for that. It barely has any data on any environmental data or data on the physical environment, which to me tells me that they don't have the expertise, I guess. Or if we're going to go, and the way the system works is just not optimal for structured data, I would say. If we go with health data, focusing on the blood test, for example, it's probably more compelling. So we as a group, maybe by the end of this breakout, should think hard about refining where we're going to put our effort. Another aspect that we focused on is that deciding who our audience is, or who are we trying to serve. I think there was a general consensus that it's the community. In other words, we're not supporting government agencies. It's the broader community and providing information to them that exists, but it's impossible to find. That's where we should focus our attention on. How we go about doing that's a different question. But the issues of trust that are so critical, or the broken trust, come into play about who we partner with. Does the system or group that we partner in, does it seem like they are heavily oriented towards government data and primarily working in sync with the government? What implication does that have for the audience that we're trying to serve? And open data Flint seem to be primarily government data directly, or partnerships. And just as a kind of an example, semi-counter example, we looked at the map, what is the Flint pipes? Gosh.
Pipemap.org.
Yeah, that seemed to be less constrained about where they got their data. So So anyways,
so I can provide some more context
Yeah.
about the open data, the Flint open data portal. So yeah, they do have government data right now, but they are not a government run agency. So it's out of ICPSR.
Yeah, yeah.
They do receive some, they are paid by federal agencies to curate and store their data in some cases, but they are not a government agency. So they are open to more and different kinds of data. And so like the archive director there is Libby Hemphill, and she is open to this. They have a small amount of money that they could throw at curation efforts too. So that's why we were targeting it as a partner, because, and they do have ties with the community. It's not just like this random thing that got spun up. So yeah, so but note taken about like they are better at dealing with certain kinds of data because it is a social science data repository. So they have, those are their curation workflows. They are, I will note also, like you mentioned, like the blood data, and we talked about that strangely in our group a little bit, but like they do have a long documented history of like working with making sensitive data available. So that's like one major advantage to them, because they can set up enclaves, data enclaves, so for things that need to be restricted. So I don't know. I don't know if that helps or not. I don't mean to cut you off either.
No.
Yeah.
And I wish you were in our group when we were having this discussion.
Damn, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, in the spirit of moving on, I think I'll leave it at that. If others want to chime in, if I missed something.
I guess another aspect we talked about in regards to the theme was maybe doing some assessment of how data is currently stored and its relevance to community members. So like analyzing, sort of like we did the landscape analysis, to look at whether that data would be usable by average community members.
Yeah. To rephrase that a bit, look at the systems or efforts we already identified in the landscape analysis, and then do an analysis of the top 5, whatever it is, what their strengths are, curation, and how we could work with them or use their data, depending on where we go in terms of as a group.
Yeah, that's great.
Well, this is really helpful, I think, moving forward, because we identified some potential partners, places where the data can go, and the appropriateness of storing those data, which are not a monolith. Obviously, we have more data that we want to store there, not just where the pipes are and what the water chemistry is, but there's blood chemistry data. There's all kinds of interesting things that could be stored. Well, okay, so who would like to report out for the FOIA group?
I can start and just welcome anybody else to jump in. I'm actually really kind of pleased with the amount of overlap we actually had. We talked a lot about kind of the issues around how do we find the data, issues with FOIA. Is FOIA the right mechanism? The ease of actually getting some of this data, or the difficulty, really. We spent a good amount of time talking about what data in particular we should be focused on, kind of determining the relevance and usefulness, which also led to talking about who are we trying to get this data for? It's not, if it is for the community, we may need to rethink how we are providing that data, since there is a lot of inequity in internet access to the communities that are most at harm, or most at risk for harm. We also spent a little bit of time talking about some of the bigger picture concerns. Are there legal or ethical issues that we need to be aware of with sharing or resharing some of this data, including privacy concerns, like HIPAA stuff and personally identifiable, as well as reusing data that was originally collected for one purpose, there may be implications that we don't realize. As well as how can we make this type of effort, how can it be supported to provide information in a timely manner that it can actually be useful for the people concerned. And we also did spend a lot of time talking about the various curation needs when we're looking at what is essentially public data. You know, how do we handle the various levels of curation when it comes to us, as well as where to put this recurated data? How do we leverage existing sources that are doing a good job so we're not duplicating effort, but still providing the added value that you might that this type of effort is looking for. What did I miss?
One thing I mentioned it as a takeaway, so I'll repeat it here. We want to make sure whatever we do is useful to those communities. Maybe you said that already, but it's exactly the same comment the other team had.
Yeah, I didn't say it exactly that way, but, you know, kind of determining the relevance and usefulness for whatever community we're trying to provide the information for. So I don't think I said it quite as succinctly as that. So it's a good thing to highlight.
I think now is as good a time as any, since both groups have kind of jumped in and done a little analysis. As we go into the second two groups, think about other ECIP collaboration areas that may be able to contribute to this. So Erica's here from Community Resilience. And I know that we have, you know, this long running interest in collaborating with them because they're the other side of the coin, basically, or if the coin has actual sides. And so that's a natural partnership right there. But there may be other groups within each ECIP that is doing useful work with metadata. Maybe they're already tackling this problem. They've either had a discussion or a discussion and a solution. Data stewardship, yep, is a natural partner. So, you know, please note that in when you go into the next breakouts. Speaking of which.
So Steve, can you remind everybody what we're doing in this breakout?
Yeah, I can. Let me go back to the actual slides. Okay, so we have 3 and 4. How to utilize, well, what a segue. How to utilize ECIP and its resources to assist with the crisis in Flint. And that's a very general, broad thing. Andrew, do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Yeah, so we thought it'd be helpful to do some just broad brainstorming around like what expertise and data does ECIP have that could be useful to Flint, and thinking broadly about the impacts of this water crisis. And I think even thinking about, like, I'm on the mailing list for the Healthy Flint Research Network, and all of their webinars right now are about dealing with COVID. Like, yeah, so broadly brainstorming about what skills and strengths do we have that could be leveraged to support Flint and potentially similar communities.
And then number 4 is gaining and maintaining community buy-in. This is a theme that's been there since the beginning. Is, you know, why, you know, this sort of savior thing where ECIP is going to swoop in and save the day, maybe not so much, and it would help if we had a really solid relationship with a few contacts, meaningful contacts in Flint who are already have the credibility to vouch for us. And how do we do that credibly, especially in an age where we can't travel? So one of our community liaisons we lost already in Data for Black Lives. She moved on and got a better position in another organization. Maybe this is something that Lissetti and Barbara may want to chime in on, because community buy-in is what you guys do almost all the time.
Yeah, sure. I think, I think we kind of started that discussion in identifying like target audiences. I think the stories that you tell, I think, would help to sort of resonate with the community and figuring out, what is actually useful and what stories actually mean something to the communities. I think we also brought up journalism or journalists themselves who, bring attention to the issue and could also be able to have stories that can be accessible by folks, for example, maybe who are not online. I think there was the point about equitable internet access. Maybe there's other mediums for them to get access to these stories. So how do the journalists actually get useful information that they can use to highlight these issues? Yeah, I think Barbara, I'm not sure if you want to chime in. I think so. So we kind of started that. So I'm really interested to continue that discussion. Yeah.
Okay.
We've only got.
Yep. We've only got a few minutes. So I
Yeah.
figured we got about 15 minutes to do this. We'll come back at 5 till the hour. Hit the ground running. There are two very closely related topics, and they are less technical and more philosophical. So let's go ahead and again, you can self-select which room. It's the last two. Let me just make sure what they're called, that I have them. Oh, wow. For some reason, the breakout rooms still have your old names in them.
Yeah, it does that in case you want to send people back to the same rooms.
I'm going to open the rooms, but you're, again, utilizing ECIP resources or community buy-in, self-assign, and have at it. Don't be shy. All right, and you are free to roam.
I'm getting an invitation.
Yeah.
I got a.
Are you?
If you click later, then you can
what do I do?
choose.
Yeah, just decline it.
Just click later.
Okay, that's what I figured. Thank you.
It will only allow me to join the FOIA room.
Same here.
Which one are you going to go for? Resources or community buy-in, Barbara?
I think community buy-in.
Okie dokie. Let's see. Wow, you're no longer. Oh, yeah, you are. Okay. And Denise?
Resources.
Sarah, you're just going to hang out here?
I needed help also being moved. I don't have that option. Could you put me in the resources, please?
You got it.
Thank you.
And Ethan, where did you end up?
I'm trying to go to the community one, the fourth one. Oh no, I don't know which one it is, the community-based one.
It says you're there. I think Zoom is going really slowly today. According to my, are you good?
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
It offered it to me. Thank you.
Uh-huh.
Sorry, I got cut off right there. I think the data
Sorry, stepping on
clearinghouse was a
wormholes
good
again.
example of something ECIP is supporting, kind of with core funding. That's how ECIP can contribute in this sense. Something like a data management clearinghouse.
Okay, we might have to follow up on that more so I understand what you're we'll get to that.
Because the like somebody wants money.
Not simple or easy or done.
So that's also this idea of a data clearinghouse, and like that is a place where the open data Flint. I keep saying it wrong, and I'm sorry, my brain is fried. I cannot remember the name of anything, but that's where the ICPSR tie-in could be something, because they are set up to be a data portal. They have curation funding, and that I think that would be a good thing. And they're into it, so.
It'd be nice to hand off some of this stuff once we do the detective work and the setup to have partners.
We're short on time, but Andrea, one of the concerns that you weren't in our discussion, one of the concerns we had about that portal was that it just didn't look like it was being added to actively. The data seemed old.
That's correct. So that's why one of the things that I was thinking we could do for summer is push to add data to the portal. They don't have they have a director, but they don't have current curation staff. But they could be set up to be the host of the results of a hackathon or a curate-a-thon or something like that. So that I have 100% faith in them being able to do.
Andrea, let me follow up on that. If you do like a curate-a-thon or something like that, could you please involve like me and Ruth Dewar in that with our at-rest data commons? I think kind of that would be brilliant.
I would love to do that because I can't do it myself. I actually don't even know where to get started.
Hey, Denise, can you stick a note on your Jamboard?
Which one do you want?
Doesn't matter. Just
well, I put it on the first one that reach out to us. But I'll stick it.
You could put it on the what ECIP could do too one, because that could be something we do.
That's true. Just to make that connection. Hey,
so
we're close. Go ahead, Andrea.
Can I report out one important thing from our group? So we talked about adopting and maintaining community buy-in, and we talked a lot about like what it takes to actually build community ties, such as Arika's advice was basically like we need local advocates, we need an individual intermediary, and basically we need a lot of people in the community. And we realized that we may not have the capacity to do this because this is hard and careful work, and none of us live there, and we're a bunch of ivory tower people in most cases. And then we started talking about the fact that and there's other audiences that we could target. This is related to something that Lucetti brought up in a different group, but thinking about like becoming a resource for journalists and public health advocates. So like us helping build that chain towards helping to contributing to that community. So I wanted to report that out because that is I think a potentially helpful shift of our target user community. And I can't believe we haven't talked about this beforehand as a group, because as like Christine mentioned, the access to the internet in Flint is not where it would need to be. And honestly, I've been thinking about this a lot. And like when you start thinking about like data for the public, the question then becomes like, what do you expect the public to do with the data? So I think remembering that we're part of this complex ecosystem could be really helpful. And please, anybody else chime in if I didn't characterize that correctly.
I completely agree, I think, with that idea. I thought it was brilliant, specifically, and it's not just a shift, it's a refinement. I consider it progress in that we're moving away from this broad audience, that community, to a more specific set of groups or people that we can actually start pursuing.
And there's lots of models that we could look to for this. For some reason, ProPublica and some of their open data work just popped into my mind. Steve, does this make sense?
Yes, it does. Okay. So there's a lot of ways to do this. I mean, I know that in my own neighborhood, there's a neighborhood organization that will imbue you with community street cred if you partner with them, right? So you don't have to go to every church, but it's the same thing as with journalists, right? Their work reaches far and wide. I know we're out of time, and one of the things that the radical concepts in the pandemic age is we may not be limited to 90 minutes just in this space. So I'm going to put down right now, please come to our next meeting to continue this conversations.
Yeah.
I think that in this cluster, we've had, in my marine data cluster, there's sort of discrete conversations. Here, it's just this long running dialogue with different ideas. And we have all of these resources we can pick up where we left off. So next month, we're going to have what promises to be a very active session.
I think we decided we weren't going to meet in February because we met in January.
I didn't. Oh, well, the next month we meet in. Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
that has mostly to do with Andrea and I would probably, digitally kill ourselves if we had to meet again in like 3 weeks. But and there's life to get back to. But there's a collaboration potentially, Erica, with the community resilience cluster. And then I know Sarah is all over this Curate-a-thon idea. There is a ball on the ground. Pick it up, run with it. Run, go, 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 go. Like that idea too, because it brings in enough. And for Susan, this could potentially involve a bunch of other clusters, as both Denise and Sarah have said. So, the Ideathon didn't have definitive outcomes. We go where the ideas lead us. And I think we have potentially 2 very good things while still satisfying our original remit of trying to improve the situation in Flint. So I don't know.
The only question I would have on that, Steve, is can we afford to, or do we want to wait to summer to do a Curate-a-thon? Or is
we don't have to.
Desire to do that sooner?
Let's suppose that the summer
I
meeting
said the
is
timing of this.
If the summer meeting is also, it's going to have some robust virtual aspect, if not completely virtual.
Yes.
In that case, no, we don't.
Yes.
Right? We Curate-a-thon as soon as we can get our hands on stuff that can be curated.
I mean, with this issue, I get so mad that we haven't fixed this yet. Are you kidding me? I just get so angry. But then I think, I look at ECIP and I look at our mechanism and I'm like, I know we're doing things in the months between the meetings, but with urgent needs, how do we move faster?
We only had 2 meetings a year because that's all people could physically travel to. They couldn't go to 3 or 4 or 5.
Yeah.
But we can do stuff in the digital, and we can take advantage of this. And your statement reminds me of an episode, oddly enough, of The Simpsons where he goes in to buy a gun. And he said, there's a 2-week meeting period. And he says, 2 weeks? I'm mad now. So, yeah.
Oh, God.
Actually, I was going to say that I feel a sense of momentum here that I would hate to lose. And
well, that's a much more erudite way of saying it.
If we wait a month for the next conversation, or more than a month, momentum and focus starts going down. So I'm all for a February meeting, by the way.
No, so let's actually meet in February. I will give. I'm sorry. And so let's go ahead and meet in February. I think one immediate thing to do, maybe Denise and Ruth, could you, with your data rescue hats on, come to our meeting and present?
As long as it's not when the reason I don't always show up is because I've had other standing meetings kind of at the time. But I don't think Ruth does.
Okay.
So if
you have a third. I have half.
Yes, but you haven't been showing up at our
because
you have the same.
Right.
Yes.
So we have this.
But yes, I think yes. Yes. Send me the date.
February 10th.
February 10th.
There we go.
Let me.
Thank you, Marion. Okay, if you guys
give me 2 seconds, I can tell you if I can be there.
If you guys can make it, please do. As we said in the notes, we have the Slack channel.
Yeah.
Oh, go ahead, Andrea. Sorry.
Oh, I was also just going to say to the community resilience folks, I'm teaching during your meeting time this semester, so I cannot make it. But I mean yeah. So I'm sorry.
and Steve, since both of you were hesitant about the commitment of a February meeting, I would just suggest that you don't invest a lot of time planning for the meeting so that it's easier, so that just the hour that we meet, that becomes our momentum.
Yeah,
if anyone else can do something in advance, great, but that shouldn't be a requirement.
Yeah,
Okay, cool.
I think that continuing to treat it as a working meeting where we push things forward. And so
Exactly.
maybe like the thing that we're working on now is to think about a curate-a-thon and then refine whatever ideas for further action came out of today.
Mhm.
I'd be happy to synthesize all ideas talked about today in different notes for our next meeting so that we can hit the ground running on February 10th.
This is all your fault anyway. You want to continue in that vein? Your efficiency and thoughtfulness. I'm about done with it. Yeah, crazy. Hey, thanks
Yeah.
everybody so much for attending. We've always been a group that picks up speed at the end. And then we have this like big head of steam as we head toward the end of the hour. We're like, no, we don't want to finish. We're just getting
You can take your head of steam over to the Wonder Room for the coffee break. So there's that.
I have to go teach a class.
Good luck.
Come on, everybody needs coffee.
Andrea, I'll start an email chain between you, me, Steve, and Ruth.
Okay.
Yeah, please do.
We'll figure something out.
I will tell the class about you. Yeah.
Yeah, and special thanks to Barbara and Lissetti who are coming out of crazy geographically far away, and Lissetti who's on the other side of the world. We couldn't have done these without you guys seeding our ideas and keeping us on track. So really thankful for that. Please stay involved.
Yeah.
We will see you guys in a month at what's left of us. So
Thank you. Bye.
the good place to be. This is great.
What pieces of my hair have not fallen out? Yeah.
That's right. All right. See you guys.
Thank you.
Bye, y'all.